Are you guys enjoying the most worn fragrances series of videos? I know a lot of you were asking me to do this series of videos, and I did it a long time ago. I stopped for a long time. I'm back to doing it, and I'm doing one for May just before I leave on my way to Europe. But let me know if you're enjoying the series, a series of videos on my most worn fragrances for each month. This is May's most worn fragrances. If you want to find out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about my most worn fragrances in May 2022. Do let me know if you enjoyed this series or if you're looking for something different. I'll continue doing it until, I guess, there's no demand for it. But 7 fragrances that I really enjoyed in the month of May. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the month of June because I'll be mostly in Europe. I am taking some smaller fragrances with me, and maybe I'll pick up some stuff. But we'll see what I end up wearing most of in the month of June while I'm in Europe. But before I let you know the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Let's start off with the latest MANCERA fragrance that I reviewed recently. It's Intense CEDRAT Boise here. Many of you messaged me and asked me what the differences are between this and the original, and basically I covered it on the channel. If you are curious to find out more about this, go catch that video. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. But this does feature citruses, blackcurrant, spices, leather, oud, white musk, oakmoss, ambergris, jasmine, and sandalwood. For me, it's a little more denser and a little beefier than the original version. Yes, they've amplified the leather and they've added oud, and there's definitely lots of woods in here as well. And the addition of the ambergris, and I can't remember if the ambergris was in the original. This doesn't, no, it does. There's lots of citruses, and it's very juicy citruses. And just like the previous version, there's definitely a creaminess here, and not as sharp like something like Hachivat from Nishane. That one's very sharp and very abrasive, woody, but very intense. Here, they've kept the softness, the creaminess, the coziness in this particular fragrance, but it's lots of citruses with that fruitiness from the blackcurrant. There's definitely the addition of spices here, and I think from what I remember reading, there were cold spices in the original and warm spices in the new version, but of course the leather and the oud are here as well to kind of like intensify the fragrance to have a stronger dry down. And the fact that this is sandalwood, and I think it complements the citruses and creates for a very creamy, smooth wear. So it's Intense CEDRAT Boise, one of the most worn from May of 2022. This next one's from the house of XERJOFF. It's Sketchbook Collection P33 or page 33. So this, to me, I've mentioned, does have a kind of a similarity to Decas, but not as ambery. It just does have an ambery experience, but this one's definitely a lot fresher, and definitely the presence of the fruitiness, and there's definitely that kind of bubblegumminess here as well, but I get more of the bubblegum in Decas than here. This one also has the addition of Cypress, which Decas doesn't, so there's definitely differences, but for some reason they faintly remind me of one another. But Sketchbook Collection P33 is Bergamot with iris, cypress, grapefruit, apples, cinnamon, cedarwood, pink pepper, musk, and amber. Yeah, it's drying down to an amber, but as I said, this is a lot less ambery than Decas is, and it makes for a very fresh experience. And the fact that it has this kind of green, woody, earthy cypress note in here, it's a nice contrast to the fresh citrusy notes, the florals, and then of course the apple notes. So it's Sketchbook Collection P33, a great scent from the house of XERJOFF. This next one's from the house of Scents of Wood. It's Patchouli in Rye. I am really loving this house and their fragrances, and this patchouli in rye is to die for delicious. If you like patchouli, this is a great patchouli for you to try. And this is sort of like the chocolate cakey patchouli I speak about, but this one has not only the patchouli, but it has tobacco with dried fruits. There's vanilla, there's balsams, then wood, and also woods. So yes, it does have that kind of chocolate cakey experience, and you accomplish that with all the patchouli that's in here, that very earthy, dense woodiness, along with balsams and vanilla or ambery touches. The balsams and vanilla together here create the ambery touches, but this does have the tobacco and dried fruits. So there's definitely a little bit of a dried fruitiness there, and I love dried fruits and fragrances. Definitely noticeable, but I think not overly noticeable because the patchouli here is so strong. It's kind of basically taken over the fragrance experience. You gotta love patchouli to wear this one. Patchouli and Rye is a great fragrance from the house of Scents of Wood. So I've spoken a lot about this fragrance from the house of Givenchy, from their La Collection Particulière collection, and then actually this is a sub-collection from that collection called Hotel Particulière. This is Noctambule. So good. So good. Lots of rose. Big in-your-face rose. Lots of oud or agarwood in here according to them. There's cumin, there's papyrus, and pink pepper. For me, what really does a great job with this one, because I know I have tons of rose and oud fragrances, right? Rose, oud, what a winning combo. They've done so many fragrances like that. But with this one, it's the addition of the cumin and the papyrus that creates for a different or unique smell that I haven't experienced much in other fragrances. The cumin adds this spice, sparkling, sweaty spice experience, and the papyrus adds this very unique woody experience as well. It's kind of a woods, patchouli, earthy vetiver, and some other notes thrown in together to create this very unique smell, and you definitely notice it in this particular fragrance here, and it's really prominent and really gorgeous to wear. You gotta love cumin to enjoy this one. It's definitely here, lots of it. For me, it reminds me a little bit of something like Bois Mysterio from the House of Guerlain, but a rosy take on it. There's definitely leathery touches under there. And very aromatic as well. Really great smelling fragrance. Givenchy Noctambule. Check that out if you don't know it. I used to layer Bois Mysterio with a fragrance from Molten Brown, Rose something. They discontinued it. I used to layer those two together and they made a great winning combo. And that actually is kind of like the two fragrances together. That's why I brought it up. But this next one's from the house of BYREDO. It's Vanille Antique. This is a very delicious vanilla fragrance. You know, I've been accused of spreading fake news. Apparently, L'Oreal is not buying BYREDO. Anyway, a lot of you mentioned that it's fake news. It's not really happening. But that news was reported not only in one place, it was reported on multiple websites. So I don't think I'm reporting fake news. Either way though, this Vanille Antique is so delicious, probably the most delicious in this Veils collection of fragrances. I absolutely love it. It's amber, white wood, vanilla, plum, labdanum, and musk. Definitely has a booziness and definitely loads of spiciness. Plum adds the fruity layer to the fragrance, but for me I think it's the plum and perhaps the vanilla together to create a kind of a boozy experience, because the vanilla can have some booziness to begin with. But this one to me acts like vanilla sprinkled with a dusting of woods, because there's definitely a woody backbone here, and it's the shaved woods, chopped woods variety of woods that's in here. Dusty, dry, not creamy whatsoever. Definitely a great fragrance, really delicious. Night Veils is the collection. I don't know why I always forget the name of that collection. I keep thinking it's 7 Veils, but it's Night Veils. Anyway, Vanille Antique at number 3. This is an unranked list. I'm just giving you specific fragrances in specific order. This next one's from the house of BDK. It's GRIS CHARNEL XERJOFF. This one's absolutely delicious. A great take on the original, and I love it because they've amplified the fig in this one. It's definitely kind of fig fruity, but lots of patchouli with vanilla, and then there's iris and black tea. It's mostly a black tea experience, so it's got a coziness about it and spiciness about it, but they've amplified it and made it ambery, vanillic, and then fig fruity. They've also thrown in some tonka beans with cedar and vetiver. Definitely has a woody dry down, earthy, but it's definitely got this fruitiness and an intense experience compared to the original. I heard from several people they prefer the original. I can see why, because the original is classic. This one's definitely got that denseness about it, and some people are so used to the way that the original has a kind of a flowy experience because it's an eau de parfum and it's not as concentrated. But I really like this one a lot. I'm enjoying it. Really smells great. I like that fruity figgy experience here. So GRIS CHARNEL XERJOFF is number 2. And last but not least, it's Commodity Moss Plus. Have you guys tried this fragrance? Boy, it's good. It's taking the original expressive version of Commodity's Moss and, you know, amplifying it, intensifying it, making it a lot more thicker and denser and concentrated, and it smells really, really divine. It's green amplified, lots of petitgrain and lots of oak moss. Together they are a match made in heaven, and they smell fantastic. This fragrance smells great. It's also great in the heat. Oh man, love it. It's bergamot, juniper berry with violet, elemi, amber, patchouli, and oak moss. If you're only familiar with the original moss from Commodity in the kind of shorter bottles, they've taken that and, as I said, really intensified it, and also adding kind of an ambery resinous kind of a base to the fragrance so that it's denser and thicker and more concentrated and longer lasting. The plus fragrances from Commodity are the bold fragrances, expressive. It's definitely not bold, and then of course there's also the personal, which is actually stripped down version of the original expressive. But this rocks, and it's great in the summertime. Moss Plus from the House of Commodity is fantastic, and I love wearing it. Anyway guys, that's all I have for you today. Those are my 7 most worn fragrances in the month of May. As I said, I don't know what's going to happen with June. I'll come up with something. But either way, thanks so much for tuning in today. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And as an added bonus, I've got a layering duo that I've spoken about quite a bit already, and I'm going to keep pushing this one because it smells fantastic. And I think the summer months, it's going to be perfect for these two. This is Goldfield & Banks Sunset Hour, along with Pacific Rock Moss from the same house. The two together are almost like a match made in heaven. I had already reviewed Sunset Hour. It is definitely feminine leaning, and I think this one's probably going to attract women more than men, but I really like it because it creates this kind of a very fruity, fizzy, beachy kind of an experience. Because with Pacific Rock Moss, I already get a beachy quality, even though it's supposed to be more like an aquatic marine thing. For me, it's like a very beachy experience. It features notes of coastal moss, lemon, sage, geranium, and cedarwood, but there's definitely creamy quality here, which reminds me of something like coconutty in there to begin with. But with Sunset Hours, desert peach, raspberry, jasmine, sambac, ginger, pink pepper, sandalwood, cashmere wood, and benzoin. It's a fizzy, like a champagne cocktail, Key Royale kind of a thing, or just a very fizzy cocktail experience. Kind of has hints of like beach there to begin with, no marine stuff or anything. So the two together really make the fragrance come alive. With Sunset Hour also, it has great projection, and I always felt that Pacific Rock Moss was a little subdued, doesn't have a lot of projection. The two together really, you know, complement one another and create a very great smelling layering duo. Anyway, Goldfield & Banks, Sunset Hour, Pacific Rock Moss. I did a lot of it, and I really do enjoy this particular combo. Anyway guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a good one. Goodbye.